Hey everybody, Cole here with Classic Mini DIY, and on today's episode we're doing something just a little bit different. We are going to be talking about how to get that on here so we can go mountain biking while driving the Mini. So stay tuned for that. Alright, so welcome to the next episode of Classic Mini DIY. Today's episode is a little bit different. Like I said, we are going to be talking about the best way to carry a mountain bike on a classic car, and most specifically on a Classic Mini. Now, for those of you who are unaware, for Christmas, I got a brand new giant Stance 29.2 mountain bike. It is a full suspension mountain bike. It's kind of an entry-level full suspension bike, but it is very nice. It's an aluminum body, nice front fork, nice rear suspension, a good place for me to get back into mountain biking. And for those of you who don't know, I used to mountain bike a pretty good amount when I was in college. Took a long span of not doing it so much and recently rediscovered it. And it has been wonderful getting back on the bike. It's a huge outlet of energy, but it's also a really great way to kind of relax at the end of the day and really center myself. So very, very happy that I got back into this wonderful sport of mountain biking. But one thing that has been kind of nagging at me since I got this bike was the inability for me to drive my now running and working Classic Mini here out to the trails, out to anywhere I want to go mountain biking and bring it with me. I don't have a good rack system that can carry it, and since that's the case, I have been using my Tacoma exclusively to go mountain biking and go different places. So I bought myself a brand new product. This is not a sponsored episode, but if you guys want to help support the channel, I have links to everything I'm going to talk about in this video in the description below. But I bought myself a new product that is a suction cup style mounting system for your car. It can be used with virtually any different type of bike, and let me show you what it looks like. Now, the kit comes with a lot of different stuff, and it's kind of a universal kit so that you can install this on just about any style bike that has an old style fork mount, or even newer bikes that use a Thru-Axle fork mount, which is what mine is on the back here on my bike. Now, you are presented with a few things. This is the main fork mount here. It has 3 suction cups with covers on them, a fork mount that sits on top here, and then you have a separate suction cup where your rear wheel sits and doesn't scuff up your paint and helps secure the bike to wherever you're suction cupping it to your car. Now, depending on the type of bike you have, you may end up having to purchase additional mounting hardware for a Thru-Axle. In my case, I did also have to buy these. They were about 10 bucks, and they are made by the company who makes this suction cup mount. They go right into that fork mount and allow me to mount my specific width fork on the front of my bike. If I ever got a new fork or change that out in the future, I potentially could have to get new adapters for this. So it's something to keep in mind depending on the bike that you have. Now let's jump over to the car and I'm going to show you guys how this mounts up because it's actually pretty easy. Now let's talk about the suction cup mount itself. The top is really the business end of this whole kit, and it does the majority of the work holding the bike on. As you can see, it's got 3 suction cups. Each of those has a cover on the bottom which protects those, and it's really important that when you're not using this, that these covers stay on here because this suction cup material is a soft rubber, and if it ever gets torn, sliced, gouged, anything like that, it's going to reduce the effectiveness of the suction cup mount itself, and in turn, make your bike less secure on your car. Now, a lot of people might see this and think, oh my gosh, this is a terribly unsafe way to mount a bike on a car. It's gonna come flying off. How do you even know that it is on there tight enough? Well, it's pretty ingenious actually. So they give you this little microfiber towel. You wanna make sure that Whenever you are about to do something, spray some stuff on here and then give it a nice little wipe down. And then what we're gonna do is install the suction cup mount itself. So I like to put it on right about here, and you'll notice that I literally just set it on here. We kind of want this in a place where it's gonna be able to make a seal on all portions. And then what we're gonna do is use these little push buttons right here to pump up the suction. On this kit, they have a little white ring on them that indicates whether or not you have enough suction force to be safe and secure. If you ever see this white after you install your bike rack and after you install this kit, it's not secure enough on your car and you really need to adjust it again. So let's start pumping up this one over here. And as we're doing that, the white starts to go away and we're starting to get suction. Now, the Mini has a bit of a curvature on the top of the roof here, so we might have to adjust this a little bit to make it work just right, but as you can see, these are all starting to suck down onto the roof. And there we go. We have a really, really tight suction. As you might be able to see, I'm actually shaking the car with this mount. It's on there so tightly now. So with this in place, suction down, we are ready to install the bike and also the bottom portion of the suction mount. Now, before you go putting your bike up here, you're gonna wanna do one more thing, and that is to use the strap they included in the kit to actually strap down your pedal so that it doesn't spin. Now, if you're lucky, your pedal is going to be in a position where it's going to actually be able to be strapped down. But in my case, I might not be able to just because of the orientation of my frame. Let's see here. So the reason we add this strap here is because when you're driving down the road, you don't want these pedals to be spinning, because the way that they sit on your car, it actually can cause damage to your car if your pedals hit the body of the car. Kind of self-explanatory once you kind of think about it, but when you're setting everything up, it's important to do this. Now, this next part of the install is probably the hardest part, but it's not even really that difficult. It's just that it can be a little unwieldy if you're doing this by yourself. So you can see here, we're gonna need to lift the bike up, but in order to do this properly and figure out where that bottom suction cup mount needs to go, we kind of have to set it in place on the fork mount and then let the wheel rest down so we can see where it needs to go, which is right about there. And you can also turn your wheel, turn your frame to kind of make this fit in the way that you want it to. But I've found my place right about there on the boot lid. We'll pop this back off, and now we'll go ahead and install a suction cup mount on the bottom as well. And the process is the exact same as the top. You simply get that suction presser right there, suck it down really good, and now we can put our bike up there for real. And so now with that in place, we are gonna be able to lift the bike up and set it in place. Now for my set, like I said, I have a Thru-Axle, so I have my Thru-Axle ready to go in once we put this bike up here. And of course, it's gotta go in from this side, so switch places. Wanna make sure that's ready so that when we lift this bike up, it's easy. All right, so we have Thru-Axle started. Gonna go ahead and tighten this down all the way. All right, and with that tightened up, the last thing we need to do is put this strap on right here. And let's just spin that wheel until we have a good through point. And now you can see a little bit more clearly why it's so important to have this strap right here to keep that from spinning and hitting the glass in this case, or the boot lid, anything like that. Now, how cool is that? Very, very secure. You can see shaking this, and while it does move a little bit, and that's pretty normal, they do this in every bike rack, every bike system that you would have on your car, whether it's roof bars or this suction cup mount. it is extremely secure. Now with that set up, there's only one thing I can see that is really not that ideal, and that's that you're left with this front tire and you need to find a place for it. I think it would be really cool if they had a single style suction mount so you could like suction the wheel on here somewhere as well. I think that would make life a lot easier, but that is not the case. So if you have a dirty wheel like this, like I do in this case, you got to put it in your back seat, which can be a little annoying to get in and out, and you might get your back seat dirty. So lay down a towel, put this in the back, and now we can hit the road and go hit some trails. Now the cool thing about this mount is that you can pretty much mount it however you want to. It's not always safe or legal, but technically you can mount it on the front of the car like this, or on the side, or on the back, or on the top of the roof. The world is your oyster here. And no matter the shape of your car, whether it is a classic Mini, or maybe you have a classic Porsche, or an Alfa Romeo, or whatever, this suction cup mount should work with any of those cars, as long as there is a surface where you can suction this on and get it nice and secure. So obviously we don't want to keep it like this. Let's flip it back to the way it was and go for a drive and see how well this holds on and how safe and secure it is. Now the last thing I want to show you is of course just taking this off, and it's very simple. You just slowly work your fingers underneath this here. Find the suction cup that is the easiest for you to take off, and you can slowly work this up. All you're doing is introducing some air and an opening for the air to release that vacuum, and it should pop right off. And like I mentioned before, don't forget to go ahead and put the covers back on these. You want to make sure that they last as long as they possibly can. So I hope that you guys liked this episode. It's a little bit different than, our usual stuff, which is more DIY focused on the car. But this is also something that I want to be able to use my car for. The whole point of doing all the different things that we did on this Mini, turbocharging it, fixing things, is so that we can drive it and enjoy it. And part of that is driving at places that you normally go, so that you can kind of have a little bit more fun in those situations. So if you have any questions about this suction cup mount, why I chose it over a roof rack, how it mounts, anything like that, please feel free to post those questions in the comments section below. If you like this video, if you like this kind of content, go ahead and hit the like button so I know, and we can keep doing some kind of hybrid stuff like this in the future. And I want to say a huge thank you to a local guy, Chad, for turning me on to this style mount. I really appreciate it. I had no idea these existed, and this is the perfect mount for this car and for the things that I like to do. So anyways, that's going to wrap up this episode. And until I see you guys on the next one, you know the drill. Enjoy those minis and motor on.